The first round of the 2025 NFL Draft is officially in the books, but the content rolls on here on the channel. Make sure you're subscribed as we talk about some of the most shocking picks of the first round. And we kick things off with Tyler Booker. It's earlier than I think a lot of people expected him to go, but in terms of bringing in a big power run, gap scheme oriented offensive lineman, Tyler Booker absolutely fits the bill at guard. We know the Cowboys want to build that team in the trenches, build up the offensive line, protect Dak Prescott, and run the football. Tyler Booker is reportedly the Will Anderson Jr. character and leadership-wise of the offensive line at Bama. Of course, Will Anderson Jr. was drafted really, really high last year and had a fantastic rookie year. If Tyler Booker is, that same type of leader, that same type of person, you're going to bring in a really, really good player into the fold. And then obviously the tape's pretty good as well for him to go at number 12 overall. I didn't think he was going to be drafted quite this high, but the athleticism, although it's somewhat up in the air, he was testing better at his pro day compared to the combine. And of course, athletic testing is not the end all be all for an offensive lineman. For Tyler Booker, a big, big, big mauling offensive lineman like him, I worry a little bit less about the overall athleticism, the explosiveness. And I'm like, can you move people? And he absolutely can. Does not really even allow pressures on the quarterback. So Booker, I think, was really surprising to see him go this early. But if you watch my final mock draft, I actually mentioned this as a surprise, shock possibility. It ended up coming true. But I think he's a good player. And I'm excited. Well, I hate the Cowboys, I guess. But for the Cowboys, I'm excited to see how his career progresses as they build an entire offensive line full of people named Tyler. They do lose Tyler Biadasz to free agency, I guess, a couple of years ago now. But Tyler Guyton in the first round last year. I think Tyler Smith maybe 3 years ago, because I think Mozzie Smith was in between those two, right? But they're building an offensive line full of Tylers. They're going to find a way to get Biadasz back. They're going to get somebody else. They're going to bring back Tyler Eifert out of retirement as an extension of the O-line. It's a complete Tyler team, but the Cowboys do not play in Tyler, Texas. Mason Graham was completely shocking as well, but it's not just about Mason Graham. Is he a good enough player to go at this spot? I think absolutely. I think he is. But what was super shocking about this was everything that went into it. We're going to combine Travis Hunter into this selection. The fact that the Browns had what I would really consider to be a generational player, in which I don't use that term lightly, to see a true unicorn that was the best receiver in this draft and the best corner in this draft. Don't listen to what random people tell you saying, oh, Travis Hunter is, he's third best corner or receiver. It's just not true. He was the best receiver prospect and the best corner prospect. And it wasn't even really all that close in the end. The Jaguars managed to get the Browns away from him and then ended up going with Mason Graham, who's still a good player who upgrades a position for them. And I'll tell you what, the Browns got an absolute haul back for Travis Hunter. And you'd have to move off of that pick. And I'm sure that's what Andrew Berry and the Browns said, is that, hey, this is an unbelievable player. We will take him here unless you give us a haul. And they got one back. A really, really high pick in the second round, a first round pick next year, right? They got a ton back for what ends up being Travis Hunter. And they got a pretty good player here in Mason Graham, but it was absolutely surprising. I was shocked when that trade went down. But again, quite a good player to get here for Cleveland. It's going to be interesting to see if he can make Myles Garrett's life a lot easier. He's a talented player. As is Colston Loveland to the Bears at 10. And I actually really love the fit. I talked about this as I think probably I said this was a better fit than Tyler Warren pre-draft, because I thought that you'd have DJ Moore on the outside, Rome Odunze on the outside. You have Cole Kmet still. For how much longer, who knows? But if you're going to run 12 personnel like Ben Johnson likes to do, like we saw in Detroit, what type of tight end fits? Is it like the true inline tight end? And that I think that profiles more with Tyler Warren, even though he's not some unbelievable blocker against true defensive linemen. But Loveland, I think, works better up the seam in the slot. He's a power slot type of player. And I think that would really, really work with Chicago. He's going to be on the field a lot. I think as much or more then Cole Kmet. I think he will be able to eat up the seams and let your big time receivers work on the outside. It was kind of surprising to see him go above Tyler Warren, but not that crazy because they were kind of like tight end 1A and 1B like the entire year. It's just Loveland wasn't as productive because he didn't have a quarterback to throw him the ball. Alex Orji was not that guy. Davis Warren was not that guy. He still was fairly productive, I guess, this season for a Michigan team that really, I don't even want to say underwhelmed because they weren't expected to be that good. But man, I think Loveland's going to be a really fun fit. I think he's going to the exact right spot to produce with Ben Johnson. And I think they're going to be able to creatively get him the football. And he's going to be a big playmaker for Caleb Williams and this Bears team. Ben Johnson, of course, new head coach of the Chicago Bears. Emeka Egbuka to the Bucs was also kind of surprising to me because I think the entire process, I had kind of convinced myself that this was going to end up being a defensive player one way or another. I thought, okay, they really could upgrade the secondary. Maybe they opt to go with a Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson, maybe if he falls. And he's completely fallen out of the first round due to some injury concerns and also maybe some tape stuff with a down 2024 and some overall size and athleticism concerns. Because, I mean, he's tall enough, but the arms are short, and that does matter for a pressed corner that I guess is really going to, I would say, play mostly zone at the next level. I think you're talking about maybe a lot of press bail. So it's going to be interesting to see what team he ends up going to. But they don't opt to go with a corner or DB, decide that safety's not going to be in the cards for them. You think maybe Jahad Campbell. He'd be a great linebacker to add to the fold, can rush off the edge, but can also play inside and be a force back in coverage because his speed and his size, it makes it tough to throw the ball in his, general area, but they don't opt to go with Jahad Campbell either. And you think, okay, well, it's probably most likely in this draft that they're going to upgrade the edge. There are a bunch of really good edge rushers in this class, especially in the first round. You could get a guy like Donovan Ezeraku or James Pierce Jr., Mike Green. So many of these guys have been entirely productive. All were on the board for their pick, but no, they get out ahead of their receiver problems. And that is the fact that Chris Godwin is often injured and Mike Evans is likely going to retire in the pretty near future, I would say. So it felt like kind of an interesting fit with them having Evans, Godwin, Jalen McMillan, like a pretty good group of receivers. And even if you look down, they have the former 5-star Maryland receiver, on the team that kind of flashed at times, but they love what Emeka Egbuka brings to the table. And I think combined with his reliable, not going to miss a game, great hands, good enough route runner, and especially willing as a blocker, he creates opportunities for you offensively. Obviously, I can't say not going to miss a game. Injuries do happen, right? But this guy's as reliable as they come on the field. He has great hands. He is good after the catch. He is an awesome blocker. And I know it seems crazy to kind of really go into blocking ability for a receiver, but it's important in the run game. It really, really is. You can create holes in that second and especially that third level as a receiver. That's how you create big splash, explosive plays in the running game. And Egbuka is instrumental oftentimes in the Ohio State offense, letting Travion Henderson burst a huge run, or even Quinshon Judkins at times. But I was just kind of surprised to see the Bucs go with wide receiver here, but obviously they wanted to get ahead of Mike Evans retiring and the Chris Godwin, oft injured. But Egbuka is quite a good player, and I think it's going to be interesting to see just how much he's used in 2025, and if this maybe isn't more of a long-term play. Matthew Golden, another receiver. Why was this a shock? Because he's a good player. It wasn't really surprising to see him available at 23. I did have him at 12 in my final mock to the Cowboys just because there's a lot of smoke there. Sometimes you do follow the rumors. But it wasn't that surprising to see Golden available at 23. What was surprising is that the Packers ended up drafting him, because the Packers have not drafted a receiver in the first round since, I believe, 2002. Could be 2003. I think 2002 with Javon Walker, a player I actually liked quite a bit growing up. And you think, okay, we know the Packers need a receiver. They really could use an upgrade. To me, the Packers have a lot of good receivers, but they don't have a lot of great ones. And in this class, I didn't think they'd really have a chance to bring in a great receiver. And I love Matthew Golden. I think this guy's an absolute stud. Hook him, obviously a little bit of Longhorn bias in there. But when Texas needed a play, they threw the ball to Matthew Golden. He gets open. He doesn't drop the football. He's good enough after the catch. If you watched him at Houston prior to transferring to Texas, this was a special return man. So he's got a little bit of juice, and he's got some real-time playmaking ability. I think he's got that X factor, but I also, at the same time, I don't know that he's going to be a true game-changing receiver for this Packers team. I think he's just going to be another really good guy to add to what is a pretty good group. I still feel like they're missing that bona fide X factor. It's not to say that Matthew Golden, can't end up being a true wide receiver one of the better receivers in the league as he continues to get better. But I don't know. It was surprising as the Packers go receiver. They haven't done it in 20 years, 20 plus years for sure. As we get to Jackson Dart of the New York Giants. Shocked is one way to put it. I really didn't think Jackson Dart was going to end up being a first round pick. There are things to like about Jackson Dart, no question. But to see him go in the first round just proves how, quarterback centric the NFL is in football, really. It's the most important position. These guys get overdrafted all the time. The Giants actively traded up for Jackson Dart, which you really have to think this guy's special in order to do that. Obviously, it's not, top 5 or top 10 pick. They take him here at 25. They do get the 5th-year option. It doesn't really matter as much because these guys don't even really get that close to hitting free agency anyway if they're a franchise-level quarterback. And you hope Jackson Dart is not going to play really at all in year one. Let him truly develop in the offense, because the shift from the Ole Miss offense to what the Giants have been recently running is very, very different. And I know some in my comments were saying, oh, well, RPO, nobody runs RPO. And then you see RPO kind of taking over the NFL recently. It's not just about this. It's, if you look at Ole Miss, it's I don't even want to say it's like him reading the coverage and, taking a shot every once in a while. It's like, that's all the Ole Miss offense is shot plays over the top, right? Like, it's not all it is, but it's a pretty big part of it. And it's just, I think, unrealistic, especially with the amount of too high coverage that, defenses are playing in the modern NFL. So if you're going to say Jackson Dart's big strength is that this guy's able to take shots over the top, I know they run double post all the time at Ole Miss. Now in the NFL, he's going to have to be reading defense, truly reading defenses and whipping the ball into intermediate areas of the field. It's going to be a big transition. He's going to be asked to do a lot of different things that he has not shown the ability to do at Ole Miss. Now, it's not to say that he can't develop and be that guy, but for a player that I really didn't think was a first-round type of player, and I know this draft is really weird. There are not a lot of first-round talents in this draft, so a lot of guys do get pushed up. But to see the Giants move back up and go with Jackson Dart here at 25, it was definitely surprising to me as a Giants fan, and I am interested to see how this works out, because this to me says that Joe Shane, GM of the Giants, Brian Daboll think that they've got job security where they can trade up and spend a first-round pick on a guy that's not going to help them win right away when you'd assume they are on the hot seat. So it was a surprising pick for a lot of reasons for me. I thought they'd really kind of go all in and try to win now with, Russell Wilson, as crazy as that sounds. But they do have a contingency plan here to, I guess, maybe try to buy an extra year to say, hey, we drafted Jackson Dart. Let's see this guy in the field. You'd assume, I would say without a shadow of a doubt, he's starting for the Giants in 2026. We'll see if he's ready to go by then, because there's some development that has to be done, no question. And the last one I'll leave you with here is James Pierce Jr. The Falcons, who have not drafted an edge rusher in the first round in quite some time, have not only taken James Pierce Jr. at 26, but Jalen Walker at 15. They have double dipped on edge rushers. And I think this is an interesting fit. You already have Arnold Ebiketie, but I guess you're building the lightest edge combination in the league with Pierce, Walker, and Ebiketie. These guys are light. Now, Walker, you wouldn't know it. The guy is basically, he plays at 240, 245 maybe. he might as well be 260. He's a brick shit house. He's strong as an ox. I love Jalen Walker. I think he's a really talented player. I'd be interested to see how he develops as a pass rusher, but in terms of the splash plays, Jalen Walker has made quite a few of those. He's stout in the run game. But I'm interested now to see if they're going to run a bunch of different packages where Pierce and maybe Arnold Ebiketie are off the edge on either side, and Walker's playing off the ball, maybe lining up in the A or B gap and coming as a blitzer sometimes, or spot dropping. I think that'd be very interesting to see how they're going to actually actively deploy Jalen Walker, because he doesn't have to be as a full-time edge if you don't want him to be, with the addition of James Pierce. Why is this move so shocking in the end? Well, it's what the Falcons gave up to get him. They've moved back into the first round from the middle of the second round, 45-ish or so, all the way up to 26. It cost them a 2026 first round pick to do it. That is a lot to move back up. I get they were going a long ways from 45-ish or something around there to 26. That's a big move up. But to give up a 2026 first round pick in order to do it is a lot. And I think the Falcons could be a playoff team. The NFC South is not especially strong. The Bucs, to me, are probably at the top. I think the Saints are probably going to be the worst team in 2026. Don't think the Panthers are going to be all that much better. So it's the Falcons versus the Bucs for the division, in my opinion. You're hoping Penix plays great, and this is not a top 15 pick again. But if you just gave the Rams, and it doesn't matter that it's the Rams, but if you just gave the Rams a pick in the middle of the second round, plus a top 10 or 15 pick next year for James Pierce Jr., you better hope this guy's and he ends up being an all-pro. And I do think he's got real potential to be a sack artist at the next level. I think James Pierce Jr. has great potential as a pass rusher. I think he'll be a designated pass rusher right away, and then hopefully in time grow to being a 3-down player. But giving up a 2026 first-round pick to move back into the first round at 26 for an end, or I guess I won't even call him an end, for an edge, is, I mean, it absolutely blew me away. I mean, I feel like that's not being talked about enough. The Falcons better hope they make a run. If it's a pick in the 20s, I guess whatever, right? But to give up a first next year plus a pick in the middle of the second round, it was just a ton. I like James Pierce Jr. a lot as a player, really. I really do. But it was a lot to move up for pick number 26. But I think Pierce Jr. can definitely be a stud for them. So we'll see how this ends up looking in time. Those are my most shocking picks of the first round. Stay tuned for best picks of the first round, ranking every first round pick, a video that gets me in a lot of trouble every year, because guess what? I could like every pick of the first round. There's still got to be a 32. There's still got to be a 30, a 25, a 20, and of course, all the way up to number 1. A lot more draft content to come. I'll be live later tonight on this YouTube channel and probably on twitch.tv/Bengal. Link down in the description, but I'll be live on this channel, so just make sure you're subscribed and come to check back for more videos. This is my time of the year. This is what I do. I'm ready to go. More content than ever, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.